Afternoon, wherever you are in the world joining me this Wednesday. So I want to discuss. I've been thinking about this very recently, with respect to my own my own YouTube journey, and over time as a somebody who is an educator, I've taught, as as you might know if you've watched my channel, I've taught lots of students. I mean, it's hundreds of students at this point. It's hundreds of students in many different contexts. They've been in it's sales contexts at one point. It's been and like training, like employee training as well, because I ran a business before, an academic test prep. It's been in obviously academics, right? So I've done a lot of teaching in academics as well, and a lot of different topics. And what I've seen over time, in addition to my actually being interested enough to study the topic empirically, what I've seen over time is really there are, broadly speaking, can you call it three stages or three phases of learning? Is it a scientific designation? I don't know. And for my purposes here, that doesn't matter as much. It's just looking at the categories here. And the purpose of you looking at these categories, these three broad stages of learning that really kind of apply to any type of learning, the purpose of outlining them as three stages here is for you to identify what stage you're in, what part of the process you're in for whatever you're learning. I mean, I know a lot of you are information workers, knowledge workers, right? You're accountants, lawyers, researchers, engineers, right? I know, because you guys reach out to me all the time, so I know what types of people you are. So, and we've got students here too, actually, college students and things like that. Some, but the idea here is identify what part of the process you're in. And that's going to make you, it's not something just motivational, but it's going to make you put things in perspective, because you might be struggling with your learning process right now. I know, again, I've taught lots of students. I know struggle is part of the process. Struggle, having a hard time, feeling like giving up, not knowing if you're going to be able to do it, right? This is all part of the process. So I want to have you put this in perspective. So I'm going to share a little bit. And from my perspective, because the something that I'm learning most recently, the thing that I'm learning most recently is YouTube. That's a perfect example. I haven't been on YouTube that long, and so, but I'm going to kind of describe to you my journey, my learning journey right now, kind of outline the stages as they apply to my journey. And again, as I'm outlining these, I want you to identify, with respect to what you're learning, I want you to identify where are you? What are the parallels with respect to what you're learning right now? Okay, so that's the goal for you in this live stream. I want you, as I outline these stages, I want you to identify where you are and how that lines up with what you're learning, whatever you're learning. Okay, so back when I started YouTube, I was just like kind of fooling around with YouTube, and that's kind of where a lot of people start with their learning process, right? I was just kind of uploading stuff and, and no real rhyme or reason, no strategy, no idea of what I wanted to create, right? So I started off just, posting some stuff. And I think this is kind of this first phase where a lot of people give up in their learning process, on YouTube especially, but where a lot of people give up on their learning process. So most YouTubers, most people who build a YouTube channel, they will struggle to ever get any traction in terms of views or building an audience. Like, they'll never, like, they can post 50 videos and, they'll all get like 100 views, right? They never will really get traction. And imagine how frustrating that is. Imagine how frustrating that is. So I remember, like, in my first year on YouTube, and I've been at this now, I would say like a good 2 solid years. But in my first year, Like I was really lucky if I got to 1,000 views, right? I was totally failing. I think you could say I was like totally failing at it, at least from my perspective. Failure is relative. It's relative to your goal, right? What's your purpose for learning the topic that you're learning, right? It's all relative to that. But now place yourself here. I want you to place yourself here. What are you learning right now? And are you in this phase where it's just constant failure? You have had no real wins yet in the process, right? Because a lot of people are there in the process. And this is my heater, by the way. I have no control over it. New York City apartments, that's how a lot of New York City apartments work. You have no control over the heating. So it's blasting right now, but it will turn off shortly, okay? But where are you in this process? Okay, are you in this process? I would like to hear, are you, or have you ever been in a learning process where that stage one, what I call stage one, where you really have been going and trying and trying and trying, and you really haven't had any wins yet in that process, right? I know I've been there. So I was there with my first business, actually. I repeatedly, like no wins. So with YouTube, a lot of people quit there. And I would say, I don't have like an actual statistic on this, but with YouTube, I would say like 90%, at least. I mean, it's gotta be. So many people quit at that stage. Like I would hazard to say, it's like 90% of people quit at that stage, for sure, in their learning process, right? And so ask yourself, like, are you at that step where you're saying, well, I must be crazy. I've been doing this again and again and again and again, and like I'm not getting any results, and I'm failing, and like, should I quit? Should I stop doing what I'm doing? Right? I would like to hear from you. Is that a thought on anybody's mind? Are you here right now? Have you ever been there? Right? And J4360, hey, welcome. Top fan, welcome. So, okay, but what's stage two? Stage two is actually really interesting in this process. Stage two. So if you can survive stage one, you'll survive long enough. And this is with respect to, honestly, again, I've taught lots of students from all, like, academics, in business context, all that stuff. Like hundreds of students at this point. And I've seen the same patterns. If you can survive long enough through that failure process, like just consistent failure, then you will get to stage two. But stage two is really interesting. So ask yourself if you're at this stage too. So eventually with YouTube, and again, I'm giving this example so you can see a parallel, right? So you can make a parallel between what you're learning, what you're working on currently too. So with YouTube, eventually, I got my first big win. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got a viral video. Like, I got a video that scored like hundreds of thousands of views. Like, what's going on? And and then I got all excited, right? Now you're motivated, now you're pumped up. But then suddenly you realize, okay, so, all right, like I want to recreate this success. So I'm gonna, or like maybe you feel like, okay, now I've made it. Now, now I got this one hit, and now it means I've made it. And now like everything that I post from here, it's just gonna get higher and higher views, and it's gonna do great. Have you ever had that illusion in your learning process? Like you had one success now you're motivated, and now you think, well, this is the start of something great. Like now it's just gonna perform like this. It's just gonna go really, really well from here. All right, has that ever happened to you? Is it happening to, did it happen to you recently? Well, this is actually, if stage one doesn't get you, this is the thing about stage one and stage two. If stage one doesn't like totally bring you out of the game, stage two will do it. Stage two will do it for most people. Why? This is really, I think, one of the toughest stages, because now you've got this success. And welcome, welcome, top fan, Calvin. Yeah, top fan. Are you making money? Yeah, I am actually making money from YouTube now. So which is great. I am making money from YouTube, and it's fantastic. I've hit a lot of my goals from here. So Mod Army Raging War, yeah, welcome. Hey. So Emre, welcome to the chat. So here at this point, all right, at this point, why is stage two in the learning process so like just so I'm looking for like demotivating? It's so demoralizing. Why is stage two? Because that's not what happens, right? When you get that big hit, and usually this is what happens on YouTube, and with anything, you get that big hit of a video, and then what happens? Oh, I'm supposed to get more and more views from here. No, no, you go back to whatever, 100 views, right? You go back to the failure state, and most people do, and that's what happened with me too, and so what happened was over time now mod army, we are talking about the stages of the learning process. We're talking about the stages of the learning process, and right now I'm just using my new experience with YouTube in order to make that parallel. Again, for those who are just tuning in, I'm speaking from over 12 years of experience as an educator, having taught hundreds of students, and literally hundreds of students, and I've seen these patterns. So, yeah, that first step is that repeated failure phase. That first step at MRA is that repeated failure phase where you don't have any wins. You just go failure, 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 failure repeatedly, and you have absolutely no wins. The second stage is you do have that win, right? You have that win, that one win, and then you feel like, okay, now everything is going to grow from here, and it doesn't. And why doesn't it? Because that's still kind of a lottery mentality in terms of learning. And I've seen it in lots of students. It's more like a lottery mentality. Okay, I got it. I hit the lottery. Now things are going to get like great from here. And what you don't realize at this stage, and that's when you don't continue to succeed, when you've had a win and then you don't continue to succeed, what happens at this stage? Even I said, like 90% of people maybe quit in stage one, right? But like you've got 5% left over, right? Roughly. I'm like kind of fudging these numbers a little bit. It's just like, roll with me though. So 5 to 10% are left over, let's say, and 5 to 10% are left over at stage two. But guess what? If there were 5 to 10% of people left over at stage two, already now that eliminates maybe 50% of those people. 50% of those people are eliminated maybe in stage two, right? Because that's how demoralizing it is. I want you to think back and understand your own experience. Think back to some sort of part of your learning process where you were just so demoralized, not by like repeated failure. You could accept that, you got through that. But then you won. You had a win. It could have been in business too. Like for instance, this is very common in business. You do something, you make a sale or whatever. You have some success, and you think, wow, this is finally it. And then you just go back to baseline after that, and you just keep failing. That's demoralizing. I want you to think back in your own experience. When have you been through that process, right? So yeah, Mod Army, you say that's why we need to focus more on overcoming stage one difficulties. Yeah, so it's both, because in stage three, let's actually get to stage three here. Because in stage three, this is where the real pros are, right? This is where I would say you achieve success. This is where really this is a professional level at anything. I mean, you can apply this to anything in your learning process. Once you've gotten over stage two, now you kind of have that failure, but then you start tweaking, right? You start tweaking the process. You start saying, okay, well, I'm gonna figure out and stage three is very hard, by the way. Stage three is extremely hard too, because you don't know why you had the success, right? You don't know why you had the success. You have some idea of why you had the success. And on YouTube, it's the same, right? You posted a video and it did really, really well. But then you're like, well, why exactly did that succeed, right? So for instance, just to give you perspective, and again, apply it to anything you're learning. There are so many variables. Could have been the title, could have been the thumbnail, could have been the topic, could have been the framing of the topic, could have been the intro, could have been the editing, could have been so many things. And so you try, now from there, you iterate so many things. And it's interesting, in stage three, and see if you agree with me, Farzan, welcome. See if you agree with me, and see if you've experienced this in other areas of your learning process or other areas. But see if you agree with me. Eventually, there's certain times where you think, oh, I got it, I know exactly what's working. It's because of variable X, right? In my case, oh, I know why. It's because of this topic, that people like this topic. And then you post again, you post like two or three of those, and you're, oh, damn, like people actually don't like it because of that topic. It flopped. I thought it was going to do really well. Like it flopped because of that topic. In stage 3, a lot of people quit as well, because here's the stage. Okay, I want you to listen up because this is such an important stage. Here's the stage at which you start to say things like, you know what I'm going to say, and you've said it yourself, I guarantee. I've tried everything. Quote, but I've tried everything. But I've tried everything. And I've heard students of mine say this too. A lot of them. Right? And if they haven't said it, they've said it on their face, right? I've tried everything. I'm so frustrated. And the question for you then is, yeah, but have you? Have you really tried everything? You see, I'm a big fan, and I post twice per week on my channel, and there's a reason. Well, it's not just this reason, but it's a similar reason to why, like when I was in any of the businesses that I did before, why I would do large numbers, and because I believe in large numbers. Large numbers make a lot of sense. Large numbers really fast as you can, but with the highest quality that you can. And that's not very easy, right? So if you're studying something, large numbers of problems, large numbers of exercises. If you're practicing public speaking, large numbers of speeches, but keep the quality high as you can, right? Don't be perfectionist. Keep the quality high as you can, but don't be a perfectionist, right? Really, really important. So yeah, changing environment, we have to adapt it. I'm just reading the comments here. Adapt our experiences, knowledges within the trial and error process. The whole system is changing every time. Yes, that's the frustration, and that's why people get frustrated, because the system that you're working within is dynamic. The system is, in a sense, constantly changing. However, here's where you can succeed in the process. Look for variables in the process that are constant over time. Because you can't change, there are things that will change in the environment, right? But seek out, okay, what are the variables that are constant over time? And what are, or fairly constant? Maybe they change a little bit. But okay, I'll tell you how to level up from stage 3. Okay, so now we're in stage 3, right? So at stage 3, most people give up here because they say, I've tried everything, I'm frustrated, I really don't know what works and what doesn't. And you just have to commit. You have to commit to being extremely detail oriented at this phase. Extremely. You have to, and I'm talking about, you have to make spreadsheets of, like, of what, data points, right? So for instance, what worked. So I'll tell you, like, with respect to videos, right? So, because again, that's what I'm learning right now. So with respect to videos, I'll say, okay, what variable did I change on this video this time? What was the results? What common factors, or what commonalities do those past failures have in common, and what commonalities do the past successes have in common? And at this point, it's really about accumulating data. It's accumulating data. So here's the thing. When people say, oh, I've tried everything and I'm frustrated, typically you haven't actually accumulated enough data to be able to say that yet. And what do I mean by enough data? I mean, you have to try. So, like, just to give you some perspective in statistics, 30, n equals 30. Basically your sample size has to be 30, minimum of 30 typically is like the standard convention, in order to do what's called a t-test, which is like a basic statistical test. So you can actually think that way with anything that you're doing. If you have not done a minimum of 30 of something with the same variable, right? So for instance, it could be, in my case, if you, like, okay, 30 of some video, right, with the same style of thumbnail, or 30 of some type of video with the same topic, then you don't really have a data set yet. right? You don't really have a data set yet. Um, and that 30, and I'm talking about 30 changing one variable. It can't be 30 of something where you're changing all different variables every time, because that's not a data set either. It's not a kind of a standardized data set. You're comparing apples to oranges, not apples to apples. So you have to think in a very data driven way at stage 3. And here's the thing, most people don't think in a data driven way at stage 3, and that's why they let their emotions get the better of them. They start to spiral. Oh, I'm a failure. Oh, I've tried everything. I'm so frustrated. No, stop that, because it's really cognitive bias at its worst. It's cognitive bias at its worst. Review the data. Really go through, and here's what I've even done for YouTube. Like, ask yourself, have you done everything? Have you done everything? Well, for YouTube, I don't like. Basically, I created a custom GPT to train me, like give me practice problems, right? With like, present a title and thumbnail to me and have me judge it, or at least present a title to me, and I'll judge it, and I'll tell, okay, ChatGPT, that's a good title, or ChatGPT, that's not a good title, right? And we'll talk about why, and I'll give it my answer, and it'll tell me, well, are you kind of on the mark, or you're off the mark here? And it'll tell me, right? It'll give me feedback, right? Like, and that's sharpening my judgment over time. So I'm actually giving myself practice problems to train myself, to be able to spot, to really like put myself in the psychology of my audience, so I understand, and can develop an intuition, an instinct, right? This is neurobiology here. It's there's something called long-term potentiation that happens. It's responsible partially for a lot of learning. Long-term potentiation is basically the process whereby, as you repeat a stimulus, the same stimulus, the circuits in your brain, literal circuits, start to rewire, right? Start to rewire. And so the more you're doing this with practice, very targeted practice, very detailed practice this way, you are rewiring these neural circuits. I mean, so ask yourself, like, when have you gone back and audited your entire process, and detail by detail by detail, separated them out into different variables, and seen, okay, how much of something that's of one variable have I done? How much of something that's of another variable have I done? What have been the results? Let me think of an explanation, right? Come up with the explanations. Here's the thing. It's like, success at anything is not guaranteed, right? It's not like everyone can do this or that, or right? But if you're dedicated, let me put it this way: if you're really truly dedicated to something, and I'll be honest, I'm dedicated to YouTube. I love YouTube. I mean, I love YouTube. I've decided up front, like, I want to be a master at YouTube, right? I want to get really, 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 really good at it. So because I love it, and my heart is in it, right? And so you have to face yourself, like, is your heart in that thing to the point that you will go to stage 3, right? Because that's the key. If your heart is in that thing, then you will make it to stage 3, right? It will push you to stage 3. That is different, however, and I want to make a distinction here, because I've fallen prey to this too, which is a cognitive bias, which is called the sunk cost fallacy. If, however, you find yourself in stage 3 and you say, well, I've already put in so much time and effort and energy, and so I can't quit now, I just have to keep trying, I have to keep doing what I'm doing, or whatever, that's problematic, right? You have to understand your motivation for doing something. If your motivation is, you know what, doesn't matter, like, the time and effort and energy, like, that's a secondary thought. I am doing this because I love it. I'm doing this because I feel purpose driven in it. That's a different justification than, I've poured so much money and time and effort into it, so I can't quit. So why is this distinction important? Because your motivation for doing what you're doing will either be kind of rational, or will be irrational. If it's that sunk cost fallacy that I described, then that's not a good reasoning process for doing something. And you then will have to reevaluate, okay, you know what? And this is a good way to actually get out of the sunk cost fallacy if you're in it. You can kind of convince yourself. You can tell yourself, you know what? Listen, it wasn't all a waste. It wasn't all a waste. Think of the skills that I've developed along the way that have helped me achieve what I've achieved. And I gave myself this same reasoning when I was in the sunk cost fallacy. I was trapped in the sunk cost fallacy in my first business, right? And I had to decide, it's not really for me. Like, I'm not happy doing this. I'm not fulfilled at all. I get up and I can't wait to go back to bed when I get up, right? I'm not looking forward to the day when I get out of bed. Um, if that's you and you're just continuing to do it because, okay, I've put in so much effort, the way to convince yourself, as I did, to get out of that is, again, to just tell yourself, you know what? It's not a waste because I've gotten so many skills from this. I've gotten so many, and then, okay, let me turn around, and even though maybe this was not for me or I failed at this, what can I now, like, all of the skills that I've learned from this, what skills can I now apply to something else? Right? So many times we in our learning process we think, well, I failed at something, right? And it applies to academic subjects too. I failed at something, but more than likely you've done enough practice at that thing that you can turn around and now maybe it's not even the exact skills that you've learned that you can apply to something else, but it might be the same study habits. It might be the same, workflow. It might be the same contacts that you've built up, right? In working through this thing. So, Christian Johnson, yes, I will give you a shout out. So, Big Johnson, welcome, welcome. I love that you're here. I love that you're here and part of this community. So thanks for saying you love my content. More coming to you, right? More coming to you guys. So I appreciate being here, and feel free, feel free, guys, to reach out to me anytime because sometimes the learning journey is not, it's not pleasant, and it can feel lonely, right? And also, you might be working through something and they're like, I really don't know how to overcome this obstacle. Feel free to reach out to me. Chances are I have some perspective based on some stuff that I've done in the past. So, guys, I've appreciated being with you. I'm here every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. time, if you're not in the U.S. So you feel free to join my lives. Feel free to check out my channel. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And by the way, thanks for the subscribe, thrive. Welcome to the channel. And if you want to work with me personally, you can check out my Critical Thinking Academy. It's in any of the descriptions in any of my videos. You can check that out and for more information. So, guys, I appreciate you, and I will see you next Wednesday. Take care.